All right. We are back again. I am Raiden. This is Blood Honey. Continuing on with the Saw series review. Of course, me being the horror fan and having especially knowledge of the Saw franchise, she not so much. So she is completely fresh to this series.
Getting there.
Yeah. After having seen Spiral, her first real experience with a Saw film, of course, going back in time and forward again with the franchise, and now Saw 5, of course. Now, when this came out, this was 2008, and again, of course, all the films coming out year after year after year, each Halloween. By this point is where it really kind of I guess you could say with any horror franchise where quality started to dip just a little bit more for most people, even this one amongst Saw fans in general. It was considered to be one of the more weaker entries, and the tagline for this one at the time was "You won't believe how it ends," which, considering the Saw franchise are very twist heavy, that's kind of one of the staples, is that you kind of go into it expecting some what the hell moment, like what was happening there. This one, it has a pretty intense ending to say the least, but not very much of a twist, so to speak. But we'll get into that bit. Going away from Saw 5, how did you feel about it overall?
I mean, you kind of. I'm going to have to agree with what you said. It was not as strong as the other ones that we've seen so far. It was all right. It definitely wasn't a POS. So, yeah, it could have been better, but there were some pretty crazy stuff, like the very first death. I mean, at least in regards to
Yes.
the test group. Yeah. So, yeah.
That first trap, of course, was the character we come to know as Seth Baxter, which we get to his backstory, and of course, so we start off with that, and it's like typical Jigsaw trap, what you would expect, except this one, is actually pretty crazy. It's a giant pendulum, and he's strapped down to a table, and then he has to crush his hands in these devices before it completely cuts him in half. And yeah, I mean, it's a hell of an opening, I would say, even for the average moviegoer or Saw fan. It's just like, okay, well, that's actually, kicking things off in a very interesting, intense way. But of course, come to find out that wasn't an actual Jigsaw trap. It was manipulated by the Hoffman character, which in the previous film was revealed that he is actually an apprentice. And after that film, you had wondered, okay, well, how does he tie into this? And like Saw 4 being the origin for Jigsaw, this is kind of Hoffman's origin, to say the least. His origin into becoming a Jigsaw apprentice and what he's about, his ties to it and everything. So how did you feel about that as far as his backstory to this whole thing?
I just remember thinking at the very end that he's a sick MF. With regards especially to the very end. So
Yeah.
Definitely not our main guy. Definitely not the OG.
No, and
intelligent, calculating, that sort of thing. This is just
he's
sloppy, I guess. You could
I
say,
guess
maybe?
like how Strom referenced in the previous film, the Jigsaw is the brains, not the brawn, and we're here to find the person helping and everything. And so he's more of a brute type. Although this is where, where you definitely start to stretch, in a sense, the reality and the understanding. Like I said, of course, before it's just people would be like, oh, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? Well, of course, we'll explain with Jigsaw that, he has a past being an engineer, so clearly he would make some pretty damn good money. He's smart. He's smart. He's just a very highly intellectual man. So you get to where it's like, okay, well, you can see where, this could come into play, this and that, whatever, But with this one, it's just like, yeah, you have Hoffman, who's just a cop, and after the murder of his sister, which, through the Seth Baxter character, is like, yeah, he fell into like this drunken, like he would go into bars and just drink himself to into the next morning and everything, and it's just like, you think about it, it's just like you get the idea that it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a faux jigsaw trap, but it's just like, even for like that setup, it's like that's pretty elaborate, even for even for like jigsaw standards, I would think, for him to have set that up, though. I mean, it's not like it was an old jigsaw trap that was set up and he reused it or something. How did he set that up? I mean, that's just movie muddleness that you would come to expect. So it's just like,
I mean, was it rigged to fail because he wanted that guy to die because of him killing his sister, or did it fail because it was inferior work compared to
I believe the understanding
I mean, yeah, I totally get if he wanted to kill the guy, so he kind of, even if he completed the hand crushing, then it was still going to kill him. But the whole point of them so far has been, you do this thing, you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my big
that actually does bring
that.
up an interesting question. 100% think about it, I can't say for sure. I've always just considered it was meant for his execution, and that was the whole thing. But if that was the case, Jigsaw probably would have. I'm not 100% sure. I always considered it for his execution. I don't think he really would have bothered to have done that. I think it was meant for him to just straight up do that so he could use the excuse for it being a jigsaw trap, so he could just, get away, literally get away with murder.
I get that for sure. But yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, but yeah, that's definitely not the OG Jigsaw, because
I mean, because
you have that chance.
Yeah, because like I said, going in this one, it's going into the whole flashback, and then Jigsaw capturing him and having that whole conversation. Which, again, going back to what I've said before, it's just fun watching these moments with Tobin Bell, because he nails it every single time. You can watch him saying anything to anyone, and it's just so much fun to watch. And just watch them have these dialogue moments with Hoffman. It's just like, it's just so much fun. That's what makes the film for me yet again. Because going into the plot of this one, starting off, after that whole thing, it picks up where technically the previous two left off, Saw 3 and 4, which were happening at the same time. Strahm was left in the room with Jigsaw right after his death. And then so he goes into this hidden passageway, and then eventually he gets caught up in a trap. Someone puts him in there. We don't know who. In this glass box, which is basically meant for his execution. It's just, nothing graphic, nothing horrible, but meant to drown him just in this head case and stuff. And so, being the clever FBI agent that he is, being caught in that situation, he actually takes a pen out of his pocket and then takes completely takes it apart and gives himself an instant tracheotomy to survive, which is kind of a cool, clever moment, and shows his survival instinct and what could have been for his character if he was to carry forward more. So that whole sequence for you was interesting, where you think like, who was this? What happened?
I'm like, oh man, good for him thinking on his feet like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's honestly really tough to do. I mean, even I knew of a trick like that. I can't remember where or when I've seen that sort of thing, but it's like, if you've got a straw or whatever, boom, and then you can have the breathing restored.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like I said, all things considered, though, like I said, your average saw trap, which no one would want to be in, and this one, like I said, if you had to be caught in this jigsaw trap, please, just drown me any day of the week. I'd be happy to take that. But just imagine. But even in a moment like that, like, obviously just, needing to preserve yourself, just got to do it. It's just like, boy, even just imagining that, it's just like, damn.
Of all the other choice traps, like the pendulum and crushing the hands, I think I'd rather trach myself than crush my hands. So or versus drowning, because drowning is still a very, very
Yeah,
ridiculously
imagine if
horrible way to go.
yeah, it would have been really crappy if he screwed that up somehow and punctured the wrong side, he didn't get in, or he just flung it and just or something stupid like that. But yeah, and so following that, you see him being taken out of the building and everything, and then Hoffman sees that he's alive. She's like, wait a minute, he's supposed to be dead or something. So he was expecting some sort of result. But yeah, following that, it's like they have a bit of a confrontation at the hospital, seeing that his partner had been, quite literally on her deathbed at some point. And so yeah, he's kind of confronting him. It's just like, yeah, your department is crooked as hell, and why are you surviving, blah, blah, blah. So he's going off, basically going rogue with his superior, which is, was it Mark Ralston, I think is the actor, who's been in many things. He's been like Shawshank Redemption and many films over the years. So this one, like I said, what I said before about star power, this one has a few noticeable names like Mark Ralston, Megan Good in the image up there. She's been around. Julie Benz is pretty prominent. Yeah, so they've had some relatively known names in this film, and so during this whole like rogue investigation for Strom, you see a game going on where you have these 5 people, similar to like kind of like Saw 2, where you have more of a group this time and just kind of having to go through it. Now with this whole game playing out and how it started off with the whole, decapitation segment thing, it's like how did you feel about that kicking it off?
That's actually the kill I was referring to, earlier, because I honestly forgot about the pendulum thing. But yeah, it's an interesting concept, and then getting to know what these people were doing, or who they were, and considering how it worked, that was just not a very pleasant way to go.
No, I mean, it was a pretty fun series of traps. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when you get to the end of it, kind of understand
The
understand
last one.
the whole kind of team up dynamic that they were supposed to have, and it makes sense. And it's like, okay, it's like that actually makes it pretty interesting. But yeah, like with this whole like series of traps and everything, and even by the end of it, you're still kind of, like, so you understand that they're basically tied to some sort of house that burned down and some people were in it and died, and they all had something to do with it in some way, shape, or form through some type of like property management type of thing, or like the Patsy, the guy who's actually set on fire, which is this guy. Like, okay, I'm curious, like, how did you feel about the one dude's acting, the tweaker, as the one gentleman will call it, the because I remember even at the time, like, some people considered his acting to be just kind of rough, even for like a horror film, a soft film. How did you feel about his acting? Did you think it was a little off, or were you fine with it? I'm just curious.
I think I'd have to go back and rewatch it, or at least watch those little bits specifically.
He's like, because I am fucking relaxed. Like, he'd have like these weird moments, and it's just like,
Well,
maybe he is trying a little too hard at times.
I
But,
don't know. I mean, everybody has their own
Okay.
styles, but I guess you got the part of a tweaker nailed for sure, because you're kind of unpredictable.
Yeah. And you say like the one, I think he's like British or whatever, the one British dude with the glasses who was like the journalist and stuff. He was kind of a cool character. He was kind of like something of an antagonist. He was just kind of a dick, but I think he was definitely the best of the bunch. He gets killed off kind of early within the second game, and but you would have been curious to see, would have been like, oh, maybe if he went on a little bit longer, it could have been fun, right?
Yeah, I definitely did like him, and that was kind of they're that I'm beating a dead horse here. It was definitely unpleasant. Not something I would have wanted to go through, but hey, went out with a bang.
Yep. I liked it early on though too, when he was trying to grab his arm and trying to show him the marks to everyone. And the one dude pulls his arm back. He's like, "Fuck you, fuck you." He just slowly does like a little turn up, and it's just like little moments like that were like, kind of laughable, but kind of fun, laughable. Um, and yeah, so like I said, so parallel with this going on, Strom is going through his investigation, and then the second portion of the game, you see that they had to get into these like little chambers and stuff because these glass jars above them had the keys to access them, and the one following that would be the chamber with the bathtub, and it's like, okay, they all have these pieces, and they assume that they need to kill another to run the electricity through their body, and so that's the portion where Megan Good gets killed off and everything. And it's just like, damn, it's just like Julie Brent just straight up stabs her right in the neck. It's just like, well, screw that bitch, I guess she's done for. And then you get to the next portion and you see that you have these chambers with these, you put your hand in and you have to get your hand sawed off just a little bit at least to fill the fill the jar up with blood and everything. And that's definitely the most, I would say, in a sense, the most brutal part of it. Even more than the decapitation one, because at least that's quick, and it's like, well, typically you're used to kind of seeing maybe that in a film in quick succession in some way, shape, or form. But with this, it's just like drawn out, just like sawing through the hand, and it's just like,
well, yeah. By the end of the two of them versus having all five.
Yeah, which of course was the game. They were all supposed to team up and work together,
was like
and they all probably would have. They all probably would have maybe gotten maybe up to the wrist or something, maybe at best, but. You see, especially with the one guy, he is just practically to the elbow, and his hand is just split all to hell.
Yeah, it's just disgusting.
And it's just like, man, and you want to know something interesting about this one, which they never really. I'll just say it right now. They don't really like flesh it out in a future a future film to where it could have maybe played in some way, shape, or form with her character. But if you notice the way that scene plays out, they don't really, and I feel like they did that maybe on purpose if they wanted to go back and maybe play around with that. But you notice is that you see all the gore effects with like his hand, right? But you don't really see it with hers, because you notice that when she pulls her hand out, it's very quick. And then he has it like all the way up to here. You don't really see her at all. And clearly at the end, she's the one still breathing. So it kind of plays like she clearly did not cut herself nearly as much. Like maybe she did a little bit, but then it's just like, no, fuck that. I'm just going to let him do all the work and I'm just going to survive. If you kind of notice that, if you were to go back and look at it.
No, I did kind of pick up on that.
Yeah, I've noticed that like pretty much stuff seen. I'm like, they could do something with that and play it up in some way, but like I said, they don't really ever do that, though. If you watch it, you notice that's kind of the case. And yeah, so going back to the Strom angle, how did you feel about the Strom investigation and, like I say, going back into more of the Hoffman backstory? Did you enjoy the Strom character in this film? How did you feel in contrast between him from the last one and like this one?
Well, I mean, you were kind of pulling for him. You wanted him to catch the guy, and you really kind of thought that he would. But then it's like, oh snap! He's getting set up. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, in the reveal and all that stuff, I'm like, well, you're kind of screwed, dude. Yeah. No matter what you do, unless you kind of, mm-hmm. listen to what he's saying. So I guess that's the only thing that new dude has that's kind of like the OG is like, if you would have listened to me. So.
Yeah. And like I said, even at the time, like for Saw fans and stuff like that, they were kind of like, the Strom character, he is a strong character. He's smart, and I'm like, and as you're watching this one, I feel like they probably don't give him like scenes as good as maybe the previous film overall, but he is a good character to root for because like I said, yeah, he's a strong cop-like character. You know, he is clever in his own right. And you see where he could have been a good protagonist, maybe going forward if they would have carried him over. But of course, you reach to the end of this, he goes into this room, he finds a tape. It's Hoffman telling him, you know, he's got to get into this glass box. You know, he may feel a little bit of pain, but he will survive the room. But then, you know, he hears Hoffman coming. He stops the tape, and then, like I said, just all hell breaks loose. They start hitting on each other, like punching and shit. And it's just, he slams him into the case, Hoffman, and he's like, "I got you," and it's like, no, no. And then he's like, no, play that shit. It's just like, nah, bruh, you fucked up big time. And this is where it's just like, okay, we've seen some truly messed up shit. And I said before, like, we're in Saw 3, I would say there's probably two distinct moments in that where in the franchise I can kind of cringe, where it's just like, yeah, Donnie Wahlberg bashing his ankle and the limb twisting and the rack in Saw 3, shit like that.
I don't think I'll ever forget that dang rack.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And like I said, pretty much like with the exception of those two, everything else I can watch and just feel fine with. This is one of those particular moments where, like, yeah, I can watch it play out because it's a very intense and crazy moment, because you get that Saw theme kicking in, and then next thing you know, boom, walls are starting to close in. And it's just like, holy shit, are you kidding me right now? And it's just like, if you had to have a fate in any of these Saw films, that is not the one I would want to have. Like, probably even more than the Rat Trap to some degree. I don't know, because it's just like, because he becomes a fucking sandwich by this movie. And it's like
nothing. That is what the guy said. Is you're not gonna exist.
No, it's like, however, if you choose not to, you'll never be heard from again. Your body will never be found. You will simply vanish.
Exactly.
And then the walls start closing again. Because we've seen in films before, like in Army of Darkness or something, where you see like walls closing in, or like Temple of Doom, where you have like the ceiling closing. You never actually see this death ever really play out in film. Star Wars had a scene where they could have been squashed. This is like kind of the first time you really kind of see this full on in a moment like this, and it's just like,
yeah, there was no way out.
And like, I mean, you gotta chalk it up to the effects though, and the way when you start seeing it, because it looks like he could have gotten out at a brief moment in time where he goes up, and it's just like you're kind of rooting for him, and that would have been a great kind of twist where he actually survived and he got the fuck out. But no, of course, as the Saw films would go, fate would have it differently. And it's just like, so what'd you feel about that overall? As you watch it play out, like, what'd you expect of that trap as it was occurring? Like, before it happened, what'd you expect?
That's where I thought, I mean, is he actually gonna, like, listen? Mm-hmm. You know? Is he gonna pull through so he can get the guy put away? But then when, you don't see him get into the box, he's gonna, like, try to get the other dude in. I'm like, okay, I totally get wanting to trap the dude, be like, yeah, I got you, but that totally is playing right into his weaknesses. He was told not to do that. So
but even then, like, in a moment like that, you can't even necessarily 100% blame Strahm.
No.
Because knowing Hoffman and his bullshit, because knowing what he figured out about the backstory with him and Seth Baxter, knowing he basically executed him, and knowing this isn't like Jigsaw, I mean, you can't necessarily blame him for like, wait a minute, like, can I really believe this guy? So it really was kind of like a 50-50 toss-up. It's like, am I gonna get fucked, or am I gonna get fucked? Which way? Like, which one is it gonna be? I don't know. But
as to the trap playing out,
yeah,
I mean, not only do you watch the arm breaking, I mean, it goes all the way, and like a grape, or cherry tomato rather, because blood red.
Yeah.
And dude's in the box just watching the whole thing like a pervert, so to speak. That is why
So
I
when
said that he's
yeah.
messed up in the head.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so when the tape was playing and when you heard the noise, you saw the walls start closing. What was the first thing that hit your head? You just like, am I like, are we really gonna
Shit.
see this? Or it's like, yeah, because like, man, because not, man, it really is just
It's
one of those
like a
things.
shake your head, like, oh, dude, you done it.
Because also you're just dealing with that last minute also claustrophobia and just like being stuck in this room and knowing it's
Yeah.
closing in on you and just knowing that your body is going to be completely mutilated beyond belief to where, like I said, the rat trap, that's a slow painful death. Like this, the water's slowly closing and it's just like the same type of thing, but at the same time, is it
Psychological
quicker?
torture.
Like which one is truly worse? I mean, it's just like, man, I don't know. I would say in a sense this is because you know there's nothing left of your body. You know you have to slowly take that crush. It's truly a fucked up trap. It really is, especially for a character like Strom, who is just like, he was a strong character, and it's just like he was close. Like he could have handled this shit if he had gotten out, and then knowing that he had to take that fate makes it just like, that's a damn shame. It really is. But I will say though, like I said, it is a really great and intense moment, and I like the final shot, the way that it looks though. When you do have that looking down shot on Hoffman in the glass, the blood's coming down, and you see the walls closing just over him, and it just cuts the black. Like it does make for a great final
Like the
effect
game
shot.
over closing the door.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like dun, 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 and it's just like you see that shot. It works. It's a great setup, and it was very well done. But yeah, very terrible fate. So final thoughts overall with Saw 5.
It has its moments, like I had said. I suppose it could have been better, but yeah, like the end, I guess it finished strong. And I just have to watch the last few and see where it goes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, overall it's I mean, like I said, I had fun watching it. I mean, it's like I said, I mean, I am a general fan of this franchise. This one, like I said, yeah, it feels a bit more just kind of stale, I guess, compared to previous ones. I mean, it feels like this one feels much more straightforward in a lot of ways compared to the previous ones. You know, you just kind of like again, another group just kind of going through. They're just kind of getting picked off. Strom is just kind of going through and investigating. And like I said, it's origin stuff, but it's like his backstory. And they go back and do show how they did get people from previous traps, like the first one with the barbed wire trap. They showed you how they got him and everything. They showed the setup to the Saw 2 game, where you do get some great moments of dialogue where from Jigsaw, where if you're good at anticipating the human mind, it leaves nothing to chance. Just lines like that you do get. They are pretty great in this film. But yeah, all in all, it's like yeah, kind of middle of the road even for a Saw. So I would say it's probably about like a 3. You know, like I said, not much of a crazy twist ending. It doesn't really do a whole lot to propel a lot of plot elements per se, but it does some interesting stuff. And this one was directed by David Hackle, who was actually the production designer on the previous Saw films. So he took over for Darren Lynn Bousman on this one. But for what he had to go on, it's just like, you know, fine job. I don't know if he really directed anything else after this, but I will say though, going into Saw 6, for me personally, and for a lot of fans, I would consider it to be one of the better ones.
Okay.
I would probably put it in my top 3 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say we definitely go back up, at least, like I said, from my point of view. So we have that to look forward to. So yes, that'll do it for our review of Saw 5. We will be back with Saw 6, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.